Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. Previous episode, I talked about the month of July, and I am going to quickly wrap it up right now. So, here it goes. So, it's July 28th, y'all. July 28th, I decided to get my hair done because it was a mess. So I went to get my hair done. So I'm at the place, right? Getting my hair done. And I remember I got box braids. I got box braids. Probably like my second or third hour into the box braids. Probably like my fourth hour. I get an email from Hidden Valley that I was denied. I'm like, what? How? How was I denied? My dad was my co-signer. He has great credit. I have like I didn't get it. So I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? It also didn't make sense to me because Hidden Valley was a place that it also didn't make sense to me because Hidden Valley was a place that God wanted me to be at. So it's like, God, if you want me to be in Hidden Valley, why am I getting denied? It didn't make sense to me. So I remember just thinking, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna have to go to Hidden Valley to figure out why I was denied and reapply because I know Hidden Valley was the place that God wanted me to be at. So I finished getting my hair done, probably like 4 or 5. Get back to Ruth's apartment. Did I tell her that I got denied? I don't remember. Don't remember if I told her I got denied, but what I do remember is that I was looking for a job. London had posted a entry level data scientist position. I applied for that role, and that was that. That's all I remember. July 29. July 29. Ruth and I were just in the apartment. Me and her were in the apartment, and she asked me to braid her hair. And she asked me to braid her hair into cornrows. So I did that, and then we just started talking. We just started talking. Let me stop. We just started talking, and I was telling her basically like stuff I've been through, like concerning people, and just I was just like confiding in her. It was just like this moment of me confiding in her, and then she started confiding in me too. Like she's gone through things with people too as well, and we were just talking, talking, talking. Next thing you know, it was probably like I want to say 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I don't know how the conversation shifted, but I remember telling her that, hey, Ruth, I didn't plan to stay in your apartment for that long. Like, I really had goals of leaving by April. Um, I remember just saying that. I forgot what we were talking about, but I remember telling her, like, I had plans to leave by April. I didn't really plan to stay in your apartment for long. And then she confides in me. She says, hey, actually back in May, I wanted to start charging you rent. I was like, really? She was like, yeah, she mentioned her aunt and friend A were telling her that friend A and her aunt were telling her that she should start charging me rent, that I need to chip in. So it was them telling her that I need to chip in. And at the same time, they were telling her that they shouldn't let her have me in her apartment for long, that I can't be staying in her apartment basically. And if I'm gonna stay, I need to chip in. So when she was telling me this, I was surprised. I was like, what? So she was like, yeah, that they were telling me that, I shouldn't, have you stay all this long. And if you're gonna stay this long, you need to chip in. And then she said I started to actually get annoyed to the point where I wanted to charge you rent back in May. And in my head, I'm like, what that had to do with friend A and Naomi? What that got to do with them? This is not their apartment. That was what I was thinking in my head because I was super shocked, right? That they had the audacity to just talk. So she was like, yeah, they were saying that so basically friend A and Naomi didn't like the idea of me staying with Ruth, and they were vocal about that to Ruth, like Ruth should let me stay with her. It got to the point where when Ruth went to visit her aunt Naomi said that she was going to tell Ruth's parents that I was staying with her. Now here's the thing, Ruth's parents did not know that I was staying with Ruth. And I knew that, and I knew Ruth was hiding that from them, right? So Naomi was telling Ruth that Ruth, you need to tell your parents that your friend is staying with you, and no, she can't just be staying there. Da, 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 da. And then she's telling her aunt, like, please don't tell my parents. Her uncle finds out and he's like, hey, you have your friend staying with you since February? She's like, please, you guys, don't tell my parents, don't tell my parents. So in my head, I'm like, yo, this was really a big deal. Now, mind you, I'm in the apartment not knowing anything. But what I did know was that in the month of May, I started feeling funny. I randomly said, if for whatever reason Ruth wants to put me out and she hates me staying in her apartment, I'm not going to be mad and I'm going to leave. Why was I feeling that in May? Because at May, people were in her ear telling her to kick me out, telling her that I need to chip in. I'm like, wow, all of this was going on under my nose. So she said, yeah, that she wanted to tell me to start chipping in May because she herself too became annoyed that I was staying with her. But she said that she didn't want the devil to use her. That was why she didn't ask me to chip in. And I'm like, y'all, I was sitting there flabbergasted. Like, I was shocked. So I say to Ruth, I said, Ruth, were you complaining about me to them? Because it didn't make sense for them to be super vocal about me staying with you, especially for the fact that it wasn't their apartment. I'm not their friends. You're my friend. So why were they so bothered about me staying with you? Like, did you complain about me to them? Did you talk about me to them? And she said no. So I remember being there and being annoyed, but I also told Ruth, I said, Ruth, when I gave you money for the cable, you told me I shouldn't give you money. So I did chip in, but you told me not to. So, like, yeah, I was confused. I was really, really confused and I was annoyed. I was really annoyed because y'all, I didn't know Naomi from anywhere. I did not know friend A from anywhere. So for them to feel like they had so much say as to what Ruth was doing concerning me, that was annoying. And two, I felt like, and I'm gonna be honest, I felt like, oh, how do I say this? I felt like Ruth was being easily influenced because, to be honest, y'all, nobody can call me and tell me what I can do about my apartment. No one can call me and say, yeah, Adriel, yeah, your friend that's living with you, yeah, she needs to chip in. Yeah, she can't stay with you for long. No one can do that. So I started to look at Ruth sideways like, man, not only were they trying to tell you what to do concerning our friendship, like they really were infiltrating our friendship, but you were entertaining it. So I remember she was trying to like kind of like dissolve the situation by saying, "Well, Adriel, it doesn't matter anymore. Everything's good now. You're in your own place. Like, don't be annoyed. Don't." But I remember just sitting there in shock, like, what? And all of this was going on under my nose. Now it made sense to why friend A kept on bringing up my name on their FaceTime calls. Because I'm like, what's wrong with this girl? Why does she keep bringing up my name? I already felt like Naomi didn't like me back in 2019. It was evident. So in my mind, I'm like, yo, I don't know these people. And they are offended by me staying with Ruth. I was like, you know what? The devil's using them. The devil was using them to get to Ruth. And I'm like, wow, this is really serious. Like, you can be minding your own business, and people you don't know are trying to plot against you. So we ended the conversation probably like 9 or 10. I decided to go and take a shower after 11. I take a shower after 11, and I take a shower, right? I take the shower. I dress up in Ruth's room. As I'm dressing up, I'm hearing tip, 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 tip. I said, you know what? Let me tighten it because this thing keeps, dropping. I tightened it. I stepped back into the bedroom. The next thing you know, y'all, I hear. I was like, what is that? Y'all, I'm looking at the ground. Water is coming out the walls. I'm like, what? Water is coming out the walls, is coming out the floor. So now, y'all, the bedroom became flooded. So I said, Ruth, your bedroom is flooded. She was like, what? The next thing you know, the living room and the kitchen, water was coming out. As the water was coming out, it was gushing. It was gushing, gushing, gushing. Ruth started to panic. She gets her buckets and she's getting the bucket and she's like scooping the water and dumping it in the sink, scooping the water. Y'all, the way the water was gushing, there was no way we can scoop all this water out. I said, Ruth, you need to open the front door. She opens the front door. Y'all, the water starts flowing like a river. Yep. The water flows, flows, and flows. Y'all, if we did not open that door, her apartment would have been a swimming pool. It's gushing, it's gushing, it's gushing, it's gushing. It's just gushing. And we're like, what is going on? So now she calls the emergency maintenance. Now at this point, it's already after 12. Her apartment just kept on gushing, kept on gushing, kept on gushing. The people who lived above her, they came down. It was a woman and her boyfriend. They came down. They tried to help. Y'all, the water was just too much, right? So we're waiting for the emergency maintenance to come in. They come in like after 12, right? They come in after 12. The guy comes in. He starts, inspecting, starts doing whatever. He leaves for like 10 minutes and he comes back and he says, yeah, we need to call the fire department. I was like, what? So now, like, Ruth is panicking. Ruth is like calling everyone she knows. I'm calling who I know to see what to do, whatever. At this point, Ruth is outside. I think she's on the phone. And I'm inside in the apartment. Now, the water kind of was it gushing? It was still gushing, but to be honest, opening up that front door was what really was pushing the water out. So I remember being in her apartment with the guy, the maintenance guy, and I was like, hey, can't you like fix it or something like that? He was like, oh no, I can't touch that. Mm-mm. He was like, it's coming from over there. So he points to her balcony. I said, like, what's over there? So he's pointing at the balcony, and I'm like, what is he pointing at? Like, what's over there? And then he says, there's a central, I forgot the name, but we're just going to call it this central water system. That's just what we're going to call it. I forgot the name, right? He said, the central water system, it busted. That's where the water's coming from. He said he can't do that. That he can try, but that's dangerous for him to do, that the fire department has to deal with that. Now, y'all, if you recall, When I moved into Ruth's apartment, I asked Ruth, I said, hey, do you have a storage space in your unit? She said, no. I said, but you have a space that's at the balcony. And then she said, oh, I've never opened that door. I said, that's not a storage space? She said, no, I don't know what that is. Well, that place was a central water system. It busted, and that was where the water was coming from. That was why her apartment was flooding. That was why water was appearing out of nowhere back in June, and something was wrong with it. Something I thought was very interesting was, y'all, as we were in the apartment, figuring stuff out, I was the one who told Ruth to open the door and everything, doing stuff out, trying to get stuff together. Ruth kept on saying to me, Adrielle, if you weren't here, I don't know what I would do. Adrielle, if you weren't here, I don't know what I would do. Adrielle, if you weren't here, I don't know what I would do. And I kept on saying to her, like, girl, you would have figured it out. Like, don't even look at me like I'm really, like, you would have figured it out. But the more she kept on saying it, it dawned onto me, this is the reason why God brought me to Ruth's apartment, to help her. Now, mind you, y'all, back in May, Naomi and friend A were in Ruth's ear telling me that I shouldn't stay in her apartment, that I need to leave, and if I'm going to stay, I need to chip in. Y'all, imagine if I left in May. Imagine if I left in May and then the flood happened in July. See, this is why you have to be very careful. When people are giving you advice, you have to discern where that advice is coming from. She already told me that she didn't want the devil to use her. So whatever Naomi and friend A were telling her, that was advice from the devil. So this is why I just think it's very interesting how things work out, right? So in that time, in that moment, I'm like, okay, this is why God brought me here. Because to be honest, y'all, I didn't understand why God brought me here. All I knew is that God wanted me to help her. Didn't know what that help was, but I knew God wanted me to help her. The help was the flood. So, anyways, the fire department, they eventually came. This was probably like after 1. They were able to open up that place from a different side. And when they did, the water was just gushing out, gushing out, gushing out, gushing out, gushing out, gushing out. At the time, Ruth was staying on the ground floor. The person who was staying on the terrace floor, which was right under her, his apartment was flooded too as well. There were people who came and said that, man, the water had went as far as the entrance to the apartment complex. That's how bad it was, y'all. Like, to be honest, I remember kind of joking, like, yo, it seemed like the floodgates had opened because it was gushing so much, y'all. And so yeah, that happened. My things were flooded. All the things I put in my suitcase were flooded. I had towels that I hadn't yet used. I had washcloths that I hadn't yet used. I had my leather boots, and that cost me a lot of money too. They all got messed up in the flood. So I said, "Oh, now I know why I was feeling this tension in me to put my things in the car, July 24th." See, this is what happens when you don't listen to um, the Holy Spirit. The Lord also talks to us through our intuition, right? This is what happens when you don't listen. So I was like, man, now some of my things are messed up. If I had placed these things in my car July 24th, oh, anyways, so they came, they figured out the water stopped. We could not stay in that apartment. They switched out the power in that unit. So she said, hey, the only place we can go tonight is her aunt's place. So we ended up leaving. When was it? It was after 4. Yeah, it was after 4 a.m. We ended up leaving. And she gave me the address. And yeah, I'm gonna stop the episode right here because I'm already running on 24 minutes. Next episode, I am going to talk about what happened in the rest of that night and the rest of the days in July. So if you're liking a likely story, please comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.